सुष्ठुवागुंसस्तनूभिः यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ नमस्ते गणपतये त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं तत्त्वमसि त्वमेव केवलं कर्तासि त्वमेव केवलं धर्तासि त्वमेव केवलं भर्तासि त्वमेव सर्वं खल्विदं ब्रह्मासि त्वं साक्षादात्मासि नित्यं ऋतं वच्मि सत्यं वच्मि अवत्वं माम् अववक्तारम् अवश्रोतारम् अवदातारम् अवधातारम् अपानूचानमवशिष्यम् अवपश्चात्तात् अवपुरस्तात् अवोत्तरात्तात् अवदक्षिणात्तात् अवचोर्ध्वात्तात् अवाधरात्तात् सर्वतो मां पाहि पाहि समन्तात् त्वं वाङ्मयस्त्वं चिन्मयः त्वमानन्दमयस्त्वं ब्रह्ममयः त्वं सच्चिदानन्दाद्वितीयोऽसि त्वं प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वं ज्ञानमयो विज्ञानमयोऽसि सर्वं जगति तन्वत्तो जायते सर्वं जगति तन्वत्तस्तिष्ठति सर्वं जगति तन्त्वयि लयमेष्यति सर्वं जगति तन्त्वयि प्रत्येति त्वं भूमिरापो नलो निलो नभः त्वं चत्वारि वाक्पदानि त्वं गुणत्रयातीतः त्वम् अवस्थात्रयातीतः त्वं देहत्रयातीतः त्वं कालत्रयातीतः त्वं मूलाधारस्थितोऽसि नित्यम् त्वं शक्तित्रयात्मकः त्वां योगिनो ध्यायन्ति नित्यम् त्वं ब्रह्मा त्वं विष्णुस्त्वं रुद्रस्त्वमिन्द्रस्त्वमग्निस्त्वं वायुस्त्वं सूर्यस्त्वं चन्द्रमास्त्वं ब्रह्मभूर्भुवः सुवरो गणादीं पूर्वमुच्चार्य वनादींस्तदनन्तरम् अनुस्वारः परतरः अर्थेन्दुलसितं तारेण रुद्धम् एतत्तव मनुस्वरूपम् ऋकारः पूर्वरूपम् अकारो मध्यमरूपम् अनुस्वारश्चान्त्यरूपम् बिन्दुरुत्तररूपम् नादः सन्धानम् सगुंहिता सन्धिः सैषा गणेशविद्या गणकऋषिः निसृद्गायत्री छन्दः गणपतिर्देवता ॐ गणपतये नमः एकदन्ताय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तिः प्रचोदयात् एकदन्तं चतुर्हस्तं पाशमङ्कुशधारिणम् रदं च वरदं हस्तैर्बिभ्राणं मूषकध्वजम् रक्तं लम्बोदरं शूर्पकर्णकं रक्तवाससं रक्तगन्धानुलिप्ताङ्गं रक्तपुष्पैः सुपूजितं भक्तानुकम्पिनं देवं जगत्कारणमच्युतम् आविर्भूतं च सृष्ट्यादौ प्रकृतेः पुरुषात् परम् एवं ध्यायति यो नित्यं स योगी योगिनां वरः नमो व्रातपतये नमो गणपतये नमः प्रमथपतये नमस्ते अस्तु लम्बोदराजैकदन्ताय विघ्नविनाशिने शिवसुताय श्रीवरदमूर्तये नमः एतदथर्वशीर्षं योऽधीते स ब्रह्मभूयाय कल्पते स सर्वविघ्नैर्न बाध्यते स सर्वत्र सुखमेधते स पञ्चमहापापात्प्रमुच्यते सायमधीयानो दिवसकृतं पापन्नाशयति प्रातरधीयानो रात्रिकृतं पापन्नाशयति सायं प्रातः प्रयुञ्जानो पापो भवति सर्वत्राधीयानोपविघ्नो भवति धर्मार्थकाममोक्षं च विन्दति इदमथर्वशीर्षमशिष्याय न देयम् यो यदि मोहाद्दास्यति स पापीयान् भवति सहस्रावर्तनाद्ययं काममधीते तन्तमनेन साधयेत् अनेन गणपतिमभिषिञ्चति स वाग्मी भवति चतुर्थ्यामनश्नं जपति स विद्यावान् भवति इत्यथर्वणवाक्यम् ब्रह्माद्यावरणं विद्यान्न बिभेति कदाचनेति यो दूर्वाङ्कुरैर्यजति स वैश्रवणोपमो भवति यो लाजैर्यजति स यशोवान् भवति स मेधावान् भवति यो मोदकसहस्रेण यजति स वाञ्छितफलमवाप्नोति यः साज्यसमिद्भिर्यजति स सर्वं लभते अष्टौ ब्राह्मणान् सम्यग्राहयित्वा सूर्यवर्चस्वी भवति सूर्यग्रहे महानद्यां प्रतिमासन्निधौ वा जप्त्वा सिद्धमन्त्रो भवति महाविघ्नात् प्रमुच्यते महादोषात् प्रमुच्यते महाप्रत्यवायात् प्रमुच्यते स सर्वविद्भवति य एवं वेद इत्युपनिषत् भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्तिः 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 अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः
मुदाकरात्तमोदकं सदा विमुक्तिसाधकं कलाधरावतंसकं विलासिलोकरक्षकं मुदाकरात्तमोदकं सदा विमुक्तिसाधकं कलाधरावतंसकं विलासिलोकरक्षकम् अनायकैकनायकं विनाशिते भदैत्यकं गताशुभाशुनाशकं नमामि तं विनायकम् अनायकैकनायकं विनाशिते भदैत्यकं गताशुभाशुनाशकं नमामि तं विनायकम् नमामि तं विनायकम् न तेतरातिभीकरं न ओलिकाटभास्वरं न मत्सुरारिनिर्जरं न ताधिका पादुद्धरं न तेतरातिभीकरं नमोदिताकभास्वरं न मत्सुरारिनिर्जरं न ताधिकापदुद्धरं सुरेश्वरं निधीश्वरं गजेश्वरं गणेश्वरं महेश्वरं समाश्रये परापरं निरन्तरम् परापरं निरन्तरम् समस्तलोकशङ्करं निरस्तदैत्यकुञ्जरं दरेतरोदरं वरं वरे भवक्त्रमक्षरं समस्तलोकशङ्करं निरस्तदैत्यकुञ्जरं दरेतरोदरं वरं वरे भवक्त्रमक्षरं कृपाकरं क्षमाकरं मुदाकरं यशस्करं मनस्करं नमस्कृतां नमस्करोमि भास्वरम् नमस्करोमि भास्वरम् अकिञ्चनातिमार्जनं चिरन्तनोक्तिभाजनं पुरारिपूर्वनन्दनं सुरारिगर्वचर्वणम् अकिञ्चनं चिरन्तनोक्तिभाजनं
നമസ്തേ.
पुरारिपूर्वनन्दनं
ചേച്ചി നമസ്തേ. കേൾക്കാന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ സൗണ്ട്
Okay.
ക്ലിയർ ആണോ?
നമസ്തേ. ഓക്കെ.
ചേച്ചി നമസ്തേ. കേൾക്കാന്ന് വിചാരിക്കുന്നു. ക്ലിയർ ആണോ? രാംജി ഒരു 5 മിനിറ്റിൽ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യും, എന്നിട്ട് നമുക്ക് ആരംഭിക്കാം.
Sure.
രാംജി ഒരു 5 മിനിറ്റിൽ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യും, എന്നിട്ട് നമുക്ക് ആരംഭിക്കാം.
Sure.
രാംജി ഒരു 5 മിനിറ്റിൽ ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യും, എന്നിട്ട് നമുക്ക് ആരംഭിക്കാം.
Sure.
രാംജി ഒരു കാശിയിൽ അല്ല, കാശിയല്ല നമ്മള് പോയത്.
ഞാൻ എടുത്തോളിപ്പോ
കാശിയിൽ അല്ല, കാശിയല്ല നമ്മള് പോയത്.
ഞാൻ എടുത്തോളിപ്പോ
കാശിയിൽ അല്ല, കാശിയല്ല നമ്മള് പോയത്.
ഞാൻ എടുത്തോളിപ്പോ
Namaste, Ramji.
Namaste, Abhi. Shall we start?
Yes, yes, Ramji.
Hello, Jaya.
Namaste, Ram.
So let's start.
Yeah.
So Namah Shivaya, everyone. We are so proud to announce our study circle named the Hidden Lotus Circle. Can be translated into English as Kula Padma Mandala. So as we all know that Abhinavagupta Institute of Advanced Studies is an institution which is spellbound to work on the principles of or the philosophy of Kashmir Shaivism as its academic discipline. We've been working for the last 2-3 years under the Ministry of Education, under AICTE, IKS division, Indian Knowledge System division. This is the first time we are announcing a study circle. So, with Nitin's talk, he is actually known as Jayadev. His actual name is Nitin. He's been working with us for the last, I think, more than a year, right? Yeah, more than a year. So he works as a research associate also, and also he's an IT professional and a passionate seeker who is a well-versed scholar also, and also a practitioner who learned under different acharyas, and he's quite interested in Kashmir Shaivism as his discipline. And I don't want to give a very kind of elaborate description about Jaya, because you will understand the depth of his knowledge from this talk. So we wanted to start it with the Ganesatattvarahasyam. We are planning to organize a series of lectures on different topics related to Tantra and its disciplines, basically based on Kashmir Shaivism. So this is the first talk in the series, and we will continue doing this and we'll make this a huge study group. That's what we are planning. So welcome everyone, and also a very warm welcome to Jayadev. So let us hear him and get enlightened with the knowledge what he wants to share about Ganesha. So I'm generally requesting you to switch on your video so that we can all see. I think as it is a video session, it's better the speaker can see everyone and talk. That's my preference. I think Jay will also prefer that. Okay. Okay, Jaya, over to you. Namaste.
Thank you. We'll just begin with a few prayers first. Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. Hamsabhyam Parivrttapatragamaler Divyair Jagatkaranair Vishwottirnamanekadeha Nilayai Swachandamatmichaya Tadyotam Padasham Bhavam Tucharanam Deepanguram Grahinam Pratyakshakshara Vigraham Gurupadam Dhyayet Vibhum Shashwatam Agada Samshayam Bodhim Samuttaranatariniim Vande Vichitrarthabadam Chitram Tam Guru Bharatim Sanyasashrama Dharma Vidhatrim Brahmajnana Sudhara Sudhatrim Satguru Rupa Dharam Sarvajnam Amritanandamayim Pranamami Bhairavam Rudram Shivatantram Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Mahantam Abhinavaguptam Shaiva Shankara Avataritam Ishvara Swarupam Punah Punah Namami Yasyonmesha Nimeshabhyam Jagata Pralayodayo Tam Shakti Chakra Vibhava Prabhavam Shankaram Stamaha Namah Shivaya Sadatam Panchakritya Vidayine Chidananda Ghana Swatma Paramarthavabhasine Aghorebhyo Tagorebhyo Ghora Ghora Taribhyascha Sarvata Sharva Sarvebhyo Namaste Rudrarupebhyah Alambe Jagadalambam Heramba Charanambujam Shushyanti Yat Rajasparshat Satyapratyuva Varadhya. My heartfelt pranams to each and every one of you. Firstly, I want to express my gratitude to Dr. Ramanand and the entire team at Abhinavagupta Institute of Advanced Studies for initiating this important initiative, which is a study circle on Tantra. And that is a need of this time, especially when there are so many concepts in Tantra that needs to be understood properly. And my gratitude for inviting me to do this inaugural talk on the Ganesatattvarahasyam. Our intention today is to do a vichara on this tattva because it's the most important tattva to grasp in the life of a sadhaka. Before we begin, a disclaimer. I am only a sadhaka just like you. So think of this like a satsanga. We will do an anusandhana on this tattva, touching upon the main topics of Ganesha Tattva from a tantric point of view. And this is just scraping the surface of this topic because it's a very, very deep and profound topic. Whatever I express which is correct and is in line with the tradition, this is Guru Mahima, and whatever is wrong, it is my mistake. And so then we can begin our understanding of this. Before we get into Ganesha Tattva, it's important to probably set a context for understanding the Tattva itself. And what I mean is we have to understand what we pursue in our lives. We try to achieve certain things, we try to acquire certain things, and in this pursuit, we get certain degrees of satisfaction. But inevitably, this satisfaction is transitory in nature. It stays with us for some time and then it goes away. As seekers, we have come to a point where we have understood that there is something wrong in this system, right? Which is you have transitory happiness and then it goes away. You're not feeling complete. You're not coming to that state where this is enough. And so we are invited into a deeper examination of life. And in this deeper examination, we visit a place called Nidra Loka every day, where without any objective phenomena happening, we sleep very well, we feel very refreshed, we feel energized. And then we come out, and although nothing's happened, we still feel that there was so much of happiness. But again, this is when we sleep, and when we are back into the world, we still recognize that that state has gone. This invites us to further examine. And when we further examine, we understand that there are certain circumstances which gives us a glimpse into something that's perhaps more important than sleep itself. Suppose we are watching a series on Netflix. It's 2 o'clock in the night, and the episode is reaching a climax. We are feeling very, very sleepy, but we resist that sleep. We don't want to go into that sleep because we want to watch that. It then appears that this climax of this episode is more important to us than even sleep itself, which means they are getting something there that is more profound, a happiness, than the sleep itself. That is rasa. So, when we examine all of these states, we kind of come to understand that if we can live our lives just like we are watching our lives unfold, as though in the case of that movie or the series, and we can enjoy both the ups and the downs and the problems and the achievements, all of them in the same way, through the medium of rasa. That is what we are seeking. We are seeking the capacity to do so. In tantric terms, this is called freedom. It is the freedom to do something, the freedom to become something, and the freedom from being bound by anything. There's a technical term for it, which is svātantrya. But we don't have this svātantrya in our lives, and so we are dependent. And this is where the problem begins. If we ask ourselves, then why are we dependent? Then the Shastra tells us that it's because we have not recognized our true nature. What is our true nature? Chaitanyam Atma. That's what the Shiva Sutra says. The self is consciousness which is full of svātantrya. So if it is our true nature and it is always present, then why is it not recognized? Why is it that I'm not experiencing that true nature at this point of time? This is because of ignorance. What is that ignorance? Ignorance is called mala. So you have jnanam bandhaha, ajnanam bandhaha, yonivarga kalasharira. For those who have studied the Shiva Sutra, they understand these are 3 different types of malas. The anava mala, the maya mala, and the karma mala. So ignorance is the mala, and that is what prevents us from recognizing our nature and recognizing the svātantrya that comes as it is the nature of our experience. The true nature of our experience is that. So what causes this mala? What's the primary place from which this mala comes from, right? Because there is only one consciousness, only one true self. It is that svātantrya itself that causes the mala, right? So svātantrya therefore has 2 ways of functioning. One is it has the effect of creating ignorance, by shrouding us, and then there is revelation and revealing one's nature. That is what we call anugraha. So the Swatantrya Shakti's capacity to limit and to reveal, this is what is called Gaṇapati. The limitation is called Vigna, and therefore because he removes that limitation, he is called Vignakarta, he is called Vignaharta, both the capacity to do so. So in one term, he is called Vigneshwara. So the means to attaining the Svatantrya Shakti, the means to attaining that state where we enjoy our own true nature in its fullest form, the Purnata, this begins with Vigneshwara, Gaṇeshwara. Gaṇeshwara because, as I said, limitation, and that limitation makes us what is called a Gana, accountable. Gana means somebody who is limited. And so he becomes the Lord of the Ganas, which is Gaṇeshwara. So we're going to discuss about this Lord, the Lord Gaṇeshwara. And to do so, the format that I have in mind is that I'm going to take 3 different levels of examination: the Sthūla, the Sūkṣma, and the Atisūkṣma. Sthūla is commonly known to all of us. It is the Purāṇic Gaṇapati. We're not going to go much into the story part of Gaṇapati, etc., because it's something that all of us know. But just to summarize that whole episode, Parvati, Uma, who is Devi, is having a bath. She creates Gaṇapati as an offshoot of herself, and then he becomes the doorkeeper who prevents Lord Shiva from entering. And as a result of this fight, then he cuts off Gaṇapati's head. He restores it with an elephant's head and gives him the blessing of being worshipped first and being the Lord of the Ganas. This is the overall story that we have heard in the Puranas. This can have a lot of meanings, right? And that's an examination in itself. The symbolism of the story and the symbolism of the elephant head, a lot to cover in that. But we're not going to do that for this particular discussion. But 3 points to keep in mind is, first, Gaṇapati comes from Devi. She is an offshoot of Devi's Shakti. Second, he's a gatekeeper, which means he's a gatekeeping the union of Shiva and Shakti. And third, he is the Lord of the Ganas. This is a theme that keeps repeating in all the 3 levels that I'm going to talk about, both in the Sthūla, the Sūkṣma, and the Atisūkṣma. But just to cover the rest of what we understand as Sthūla, we generally know of 32 forms of Gaṇapati. First 16 of them are based on the Sri Tattvanidhi, and it is popularly worshipped as the Shodasha Gaṇapati. And the form that is most popular in the Shodasha Gaṇapati is the Mahagaṇapati. There is a tantric sect also that is devoted to this form, and then several other forms. Since I know most of you are also connected with Sri Vidya very intimately, so you'll also know about Shakti Gaṇapati, Uchishta Gaṇapati, Lakshmi Gaṇapati, etc. And in places like Nepal, there are very esoteric forms of Gaṇapati who are worshipped, like Heramba Gaṇapati is one of them. Heramba is one who is very dear to his mother, to Ambal. So he's called Heramba Gaṇapati over there. Basically, these forms are connected to Saguna Upasana. So we start with the Saguna Upasana, and we come to the point of the Anuttara Avastha. This is the whole journey of our spiritual life. We begin with Saguna Upasana and then we end in Anuttara Avastha. So Saguna Upasana is something very important. It is not to be ignored. It is not to be kept aside. For those who take Gaṇapati as their Ishta Devata, who is part of their Upasana, it is very, very important to know the nature of the forms of Gaṇapati, what the tattva that it holds, etc. But here, for the purpose of this particular talk, we are going to focus more on the Sūkṣma and the Atisūkṣma sections. The reason being that we cannot get into much of the details of Upasana in a public talk, right? Now we begin with Sūkṣma. For Sūkṣma, the Sūkṣma aspect of the Ganesha Tattva, we will reference the Lalitā Sahasranāma because it's a good place to begin. And the beauty of the verses that I'm going to mention is that it covers the whole process. So the Ganesha Tattva is not just one Tattva, it is the whole thing. It is Purnata itself. So it covers the whole of spiritual life. And by the end of this talk, you'll understand why I'm saying that. Let's take the 77th name of Devi, Kameshwara Mukhaloka Kalpita Sri Ganeshwara. So the story goes like this. That's the context in which this name comes. Bhandasura. Bhandasura is symbolic of Ahamkara, right? His kingdom is Shunyata. So Ahankara comes from Shunyata. It doesn't have existence in its real sense. That's what it means. Bhandasura was getting a lot of flack from Devi's army, and therefore he got his brother Vishukra. Vishukra means ignorance. It is samsara. To throw this yantra, which is called Jayavigna, into the middle of Lalita Parameshwari's army. And as soon as it's put there, the army gets weaker, it gets more confused, because the whole job of this Jayavigna is to obstruct the victory of the army. And Mantrini, who is one of the main Devis within Lalita Parameshwari's army, informs Lalita Parameshwari about this. And obviously, this Jayavigna needs to be removed, which is how then they can win. So she throws a glance at Kameshwara, and that is how Ganesha is born. This is the Purāṇic story of it. This is the Lalitopakhyaنا story of it. Now let's get into what this story means. Kameshwara is Shuddha Chaitanya Bodham. Right? Mukhaloka. Mukhaloka means to have a personal experience, a personal knowledge of it. In terms of understanding, it would be what is called aparokshanubhuti, the experience that's very direct in nature. And when one has a direct nature of the Shuddha Chaitanya, what arose? Ganeshwara arose. Let's take the name Ganeshwara and then split it up and understand what it means. Gana is puryaṣṭaka. For those who have studied some of the yogic texts, they'll be familiar with this term. But for those who are not, just explain what that means. Puryaṣṭaka means 8 doors, and the body and the system that we have, which has 8 doors. So they have the 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas, the manas, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, the pancha pranas, kama, karma, avidya. These 8 things together constitute your puryaṣṭaka. And the puryaṣṭaka is itself called the Gana, because the puryaṣṭaka itself is a form of this limitation. And so Ganesha is the Lord of the puryaṣṭaka. He is the Ganesh Ishvara of the puryaṣṭaka. And being the Ishvara of puryaṣṭaka, he is the only one who can remove or release us from being identified with this puryaṣṭaka. And that is what the destruction of Jayavigna means. Also, puryaṣṭaka, which has around 27 elements in total, if you take that along with the 5 elements of the Shiva Kanchukas, together they constitute 28. And this 28 is the number of letters in the mantra of Ganeshwara. This is just a connection that I'm mentioning with the mantra itself. So, what does Ganeshwara do here? The Jiva is the one who identifies with the puryaṣṭaka, and when he shifts his identity from the puryaṣṭaka to the Ishvara of the puryaṣṭaka, which is the one who controls it, his life as an individual comes to an end. And Gaṇeshvara is the one who enables this. He places us in his state, and this is where the real upasana begins. This process of releasing us from this identification with the puryaṣṭaka, this limitedness, is where the real upasana begins. So without Gaṇapati, upasana cannot begin. This is what this means. Now, since this talk has to be useful for all of us at the end of the day, spending some time on this, so I'll get into some details about the upasana, specifically from the Kashmira Shaiva perspective, and how Ganesha Tattva plays a role there. In general sadhana, in general tantric sadhana that we see, Gaṇapati is situated at the mūlādhāra. We have the famous verse from the Gaṇapati Atharva Shirsha, which says, Tvam mūlādhāra sthitosi nityam. He who is established in the mūlādhāra always, which is Gaṇapati. Now, because mūla adhara, it is the root of the puryaṣṭaka that I mentioned, right? So he is established right at the root, at the center. And so without him, nothing moves ahead. Which is the reason why in Kundalini sadhana, in various forms of Kundalini sadhana as well, Sri Vidya Tantra, for example, will begin with the upasana of Gaṇapati. There is a lot of understanding that one needs to have about what Gaṇapati Tattva means at the level of mūlādhāra, but there's a much more expanded meaning if we start treating the Gaṇapati Tattva as a tattva that is more elaborate, more profound, more deeper than that. For example, in the Dehastha Devata Chakrastotra, Prana Tanum Gaṇapatim Vande is what is mentioned. So here Gaṇapati is Prana and Vatuka Bhairava is Apana. Gaṇapati and Vatuka are seen to be brothers of Uma, Parvati. Vatuka is also sometimes taken to be Skanda in non-tantric tradition. So there's a connection between prana and apana in that sense, and in that sense, within the body, the Gaṇapati operates as prana. Now, can we go even further? Can we go deeper than that? If we take another set of deities and we start understanding our breadth with respect to that, Gaṇapati is the gap and Hanuman is the breath. So you have the breath moving and the gap between the breath, the place where the breath stops, that is Gaṇapati. Now, a lot of things will begin from here. One, earlier I mentioned about the story of Gaṇapati. Now, Gaṇapati is the gap. Gaṇapati is the gap means that he is the gatekeeper, because this gap is the entryway for the union of Shiva and Shakti. So it is through Gaṇapati that we can enter, and it is through Gaṇapati that Shiva Shakti Samarasya can happen. So there is a lot of value in trying to understand what this gap means, and that's what we're going to do. This gap is the primary focus that should be there in terms of upasana. Why? Because it's called Sandhi, or it is called Guru Shabda. So when it is when it is stated in the tantric text that one should focus on the Guru Shabda, it means that one must focus on this gap. To elaborate the importance of this gap, let me share a story from the great Shaivacharya Swami Lakshmanju, where he has mentioned about how he got Diksha and the upasana that he did with respect to this gap. So Swami Lakshmanju got his Diksha from his master, and he was very excited because he had received something that's very profound, and he started practicing. The practice was simple. It was basically a meditation on the breath itself. And he started practicing it day and night, and he did not refer to his guru further to get further instructions and things like that. So he was exhaling and then inhaling, and he was keeping his awareness always. Because obviously with Swamiji it is more like a display which he needs to teach us something, and so take it in that sense. But when he kept on keeping his awareness on the breath, after some time, because the trishna to realize God was so high, he became very dismayed because nothing was happening, right? And he cried. He felt so bad that nothing is happening that he cried himself to sleep. And in the sleep, he had a dream. In this dream, he thought, let me go to the ashram and seek the guidance of my master on this particular problem. So he goes to the ashram in the dream. And when he goes to the ashram, instead of seeing his master, his guru, he sees his Parama Guru, Swami Rama. And he achieved nothing. Says, you should practice sandh.
Yeah, you are not audible.
So pretty
Yeah.
excited with this whole dream. He gets up. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think the network is a little patchy. That's what.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's okay now. Yeah, you can continue.
So the dream gets abruptly ended, and he goes to his master the next day in order to find out what this dream means. And his master says, yes, you should practice sandh. Sandh is Kashmiri for sandhi. So you should practice keeping the awareness on this junction between the breaths. This is what his grandmaster was telling him. Now, Swamiji then tells about how important it is, because he says that you can go on practicing watching the breath for many, many years and nothing will happen. But if you watch the breath where it stops and where it begins, which is the junction, it makes a world of difference, and we enter into the meditative state very fast. There's a lot of Shastra that is connected with this also. Some of them I'll mention here. So, Madhyamam pranamashritya pranapana patantaram alambya jnana shaktim cha tatstam chaivasanam labet. This is from the Netra Tantra. It says that on the pathway of your breath, maintain continuously refreshed and full awareness on and in the center of the breathing in and the breathing out. This is the force and this is the internal asana. Na diva pujayet devam ratrau naivacha archayet deva devesham dinaratri parikshayet. Do not worship the Lord in the day, do not worship the Lord in the night. The Lord should be worshipped at the point of the meeting of day and night. It's referring to the external sandhya, but it is actually referring to the internal sandhya. This is from the Tantra Loka. And there are so many references of this coming up in the Shiva Sutra, the Spandakarika, the Vijnana Bhairava. And so it is a very important practice of sandhi, focusing and keeping one-pointedness on sandhi is very, very important in Kashmir Shaivism. Now, does it have to be between the breath alone? Many of us are mantra upasakas, so the gap should be also between the mantra. It can be between movements, but basically between two perceptions, the sandhi is to be entered into. Now, what happens when we enter into sandhi? The next name, Ganeśa Nirbhinna Vigna Yantra Praharshita. This Ganeshwara, he destroys this yantra, and seeing this, Lalitambika is delighted. Praharshita. What does this mean? Suppose we are keeping our one-pointedness on sandhi. it will get bigger and bigger. And finally, the nirvikalpa avastha comes. Now the gap, so the breath in, the breath out, the gap is there. The gap comes and goes. But if the gap is focused on and our one-pointed attention is on the gap, then it starts revealing something that underlies both the breath as well as all of experience. So it is in this state that in pranopasana, the breath stops and a natural kumbhaka will take place. In this state, if Guru Kripa is there, and why I say that is because upasana always means we can go close to something. We can be near the true nature. We can go close to the awareness of our true nature. But to merge into it, we require Guru Kripa. So Guru Kripa is that magic which pushes us into it. We experience, if Guru Kripa is there, we get merged into this, and there is this experience of Chit Vastu, which is not only present in the gap, but also it is the place of the origin, it is the background, and it is also the final point where all that is manifest comes and dissolves. It is that foundational basis, that foundational awareness in which everything exists. This Chit Vastu is the Atma, it is the self. So, when I say there is the gap getting bigger and bigger, there is an expansion that is happening. So it is an expansion of self-knowledge. It is an expansion of Atma Vidya. And the Atma Jnana that comes, the Amrita that comes, this is called Madhya Vikasa. It expands and becomes the center and the substance, Madhya. So let's look at what Madhya is. Madhya means the center, the essence of everything, the most intimate core of all that is. So Madhya in this sense is Vimarsha. It is the divine I consciousness. In terms of Mantropasana, there is a saying that if a mantra does not have A and Ha in it, it is Nirviryam. What that means is, unless the I consciousness is not present in Mantropasana, it becomes Nirvi. It gains its power from it. In terms of Pranamaya Kosha, and this might be interesting for those who are doing Hatha Yoga and other Kundalini Upasanas, this very Madhya is what we call Madhyama Nadi, the Sushumna. So it is the Sushumna that essentially expands in Kundalini Upasana. Madhya Vikasa means the rise of Kundalini in terms of Kundalini sadhana. When Madhya Vikasa happens, what happens? Chidananda Labha. Vikasa means the expansion. So it is the expansion of the center, expansion of this essence. The Atma Jnana, the self-knowledge becomes expanded, and one's identity, what one identifies with, which is usually the puryaṣṭaka, it expands and it integrates the whole of one's experience. That is really what Tanyate Vistarate Jnanam Anena Iti Tantra really means. So that is, we can say that the final point of all Tantra essentially is Madhya Vikasa, because that's what the definition of Tantra says. This Madhya Vikasa is the great Ganesha that is mentioned, Kameshwara Mukhaloka Kalpita Sri Ganeshwara. And in Madhya Vikasa, what happens? The Praharshita, the joy that springs out of Lalitā Parameshwari, is Chidananda Labha.
Yeah, you are not audible, I think.
So
Yeah. Can you repeat it that? I think we missed that part, yeah. The Praharshita part, yeah. I
She
think he's
one second.
yeah,
there?
we
Can
can
you hear
hear
me?
now. But we missed that part. I mean, the last part which we were talking about, the Praharshita part.
No worries. I love to repeat these things.
Yeah.
So, Madhya Vikasa is the great Ganesha that is mentioned. And when Madhya Vikasa happens, what happens? Chidananda Labha. Chidananda Labha is the Praharshita that is mentioned here. It is Lalita Parameshwari's innate joy that springs out, and we experience this. So it is not connected with a deity in the sense that this is a part of a story and it has happened, and therefore we can formulate this concept of Praharshita. But it is something that happens. That is why there is a joy, this intense bliss that happens, a Veda Diksha that happens when Kundalini rises, and that experience is called Praharshita. Chidananda labhe dehadishu chetyamane swapi chidaikyatmya pratipatti dhartyam jivan muktihi. When one obtains that Chidananda, Chidaikyatmya pratipatti dhartyam, when one becomes established in being identified with that chit, that chit vastu. Api dehadishu chetyamane, even the body, etc., the puryaṣṭaka feels like it is identical with chit. That means when we have reached this point, we experience everything as that ekarasam. How do we get to this point? Bhandasura Nirmukta Shastra Pratyastra Varshini, the next name, which means after the Vikna Yantra is destroyed, Bhandasura throws multiple arrows. He uses a Shastra, which is a handheld weapon, and Pratyastra is in return, combating that. Devi uses a astra, which is something that flies off the hand. Now this means a couple of things. Number one, obviously a astra is better than a shastra because it can kill. So we have to believe in the power of the Guru to get over our own limitations. The Guru Shakti will always be more powerful than the Shakti of our vasanas and our samskaras and whatever limits us. So no matter what our Shastra is, Devi has a better Pratyastra for it. After that, she throws Pratyastra in order to defeat Bhandasura, which means there's something repetitive going on, right? And so name 78 and 79 will be explained together as the mastery over the puryaṣṭaka is Atma Sakshatkara, and the yantra of Jaya Vigna and Bhandasura's Shastra will indicate avidya. Now this avidya needs to be destroyed, and for that Devi's arrows will be flung, and this will indicate the means to attaining and reposing in Atma Vidya, and this needs to be done again and again and again. Why is that? Nasika antara madhya samyamat kimatra savyapasavya saushumneshu, says the Shiva Sutra. Nasika antara madhya, the innermost center of prana shakti. Nasika antara madhya, which is flowing in savyapasavya saushumneshu, which is ida, pingala, sushumna. Samyamat, we should do samyama on this inner center of the prana shakti, which is chit. And again we have to do this until it becomes established. If that becomes established, then no matter which nadi it flows through, whether it be the ida, the pingala, or the sushumna, through the constant practice of awareness of reality, that is the center of the innermost state of prana shakti, that is the samvit, then this abidance in the awareness happens, in the supreme I consciousness happens. And this is the state of a Jivan Mukta. The Jivan Mukta will not have all of the other aspects that are connected with the movements of Prana Shakti, because all of the things that we experience in life, every experience that we have, it happens through the movements of Prana Shakti. And if that is the case, then that means that our vikalpas and our good times, bad times, etc. are also determined by movement of Prana Shakti. But can we establish our identity in such a way that it does not get disturbed by any of this? Can it be established in the center? That is what this particular sutra indicates. This is not just one sutra, Bhuya Syat Pratimilanam, another Shiva sutra, which says both the inside, the inner experience, and the outer, it needs to be seen as one self. It needs to be practiced. The bhavana should be done that it is one self that is there across all. Then it is ekarasam. Then we start experiencing what I first mentioned as, we start seeing and experiencing our life just like we would experience a movie. We will feel that rasa in every experience of life. The same thing is explained in Spandakarika, in Swarupa Spanda 23rd, 24, and 25, for those who want to go and read upon it further, etc. What I've mentioned right now in these three names, this is the sadhana of Kashmir Shaivism. And what is amazing is, in just three names, the Lalitā Sahasranāma talks about the whole of spiritual life, from the beginning to the end, when Siddhi is attained. Now we'll get to the Atisūkṣma part. And this has to deal with, once Siddhi is attained, what really happens. Yada tvekatra samrudha stada tasya layodayo niyachan bhoktratameti tatas chakreshwaro bhavet. Spandakarika. When he is rooted in the supreme spanda, and we will not discuss what that means and all that, but just understand that it means that being established in the Atma Swarupa, being established in the self, and bringing about the emergence and the dissolution of puryaṣṭaka, entirely under his control. That means he becomes Ganeśvara. Then he becomes the real enjoyer, assimilating all of the objective categories from earth up to Shiva by the process of recognition, and rises to the state of the supreme experient. This is all referring to the term Chakreshwara, which is what I want to focus on. What is Chakreshwara? Now, all the things that we experience in life, if you see the nature of those experiences, it generally has a cyclic nature. So day and night, your eyes, you go from one thing to another thing, to another thing, to another thing. Each object comes into our frame of awareness. It comes, stays for some time, it goes away. There is a cyclic nature to it. This is what is meant by chakra. Chakreshwara is the one who is in control of the chakra. So if the chakra is seen to be a wheel, the one who is in the center, the one who is controlling, holding the whole thing together. So the real question is, if chakra means everything that's happening, everything that's being experienced, who is it happening to? Who is that experient? This is the real question. And that experient, in the tantric terms, is called Chakreshwara. So it can be many things. In the Spandakarika itself, they go into deep details regarding what Chakreshwara means. It can mean the Dvadasha Kalis. I know you've learned some of that. The various ways of objective phenomena. The world is the Shakti Chakra. The four Shaktis, Kechari, Gochari, Bhuchari, Dikchari. The senses are chakras. The mantras are chakras. Deities, the Ashtamatrikas, like Brahmi, etc., are chakras. These are called Shakti chakras, and the one who holds them together one who is experiencing and who is enjoying these Shaktis, is called Chakreshwara. The Ganesha is called Chakreshwara. Tad devata vibhava bhavi mahamarichi Chakreshwarayita nijasthitir eka eva Devi suto Gaṇapati spuradintukanti samyak samucchalayatan mama samvidapti. Tad devata, that devata who is the offshoot of para, chit pratibha, eka eva Devi suto. So there it is referring to Ganesha, Chakreshwara being the son of Devi. Chakreshwarasya svātantrya pushyanta Sri Kali shabdavachya. That's Sri Kali, Kala Sankarshini, who is expressed as Vak, Shabda, Vachya, nourishes the sovereignty of the Lord of the Wheels, Chakreshwara. Spuradintukantim, he shining like the full moon, which indicates that Chakreshwara is the sthiti where he is Purna. That Gaṇapati, he is Nijasthiti, he is established in his nature as Chakreshwara. Here the primary Shakti Chakra that is mentioned, because this is the Tantra Loka, is the Para, Apara, Para, Para, Vibhava, Bhavi, Mahamarichi. And from this three Shaktis, Para, Apara, Para, Para, all the other Shakti Chakras come. And Gaṇeshwara is the Ishvara of this primary Shakti Chakra. He is the experience. He is the Parapramata in this sense. Let that Gaṇapati, Uchchalati, Samyata, let him penetrate, let him nourish, let him uplift the Samvidapti, the ocean of consciousness. What ocean of consciousness is Abhinavagupta referring to here? The Tantra Loka itself. So, this prayer to Gaṇapati is essentially, and this is being prayed by a Siddha, right, Bhairava himself. The Gaṇapati Tattva that is mentioned, which is Chakreshwarata, this is present in each and every word of the Tantra Loka and also in the Tantra Sara. So, to understand the Gaṇapati Tattva will be to understand the very nature, the essence of Tantra Loka. To understand the very essence of spiritual life itself. So Gaṇapati is therefore the beginning and the end of our spiritual path, and this is his reality. Ganesatattvarahasyam. Let us pray to that Chakreshwara, the Lord of Ganas, our Lord. By his grace, let him lift us and give us entry to the experience of our own nature. Iti Shiva. Offering these words at the lotus feet of Sri Guru, let's conclude with some prayers. Purnamata Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you, Jaya. It was quite an illuminating talk. So, are you okay to take a couple of questions if they have anything to ask? We can, I think we have room for.
Yeah, what I know I can say.
Yeah.
Rest, Ramji, you can take.
Sure.
Also.
So that we can open the floor for question and answers. So if anybody has anything in mind, you can communicate regarding this talk, regarding the Ganesha Tattva. So before that starting, I was actually, I was quite happy that you connected beautifully Lalitā Sahasranāma and Shiva Sutra together to explain about the concept of Ganesha. So while we are talking about Bandhasura, I just want to make a point. I'll conclude with that. So when you look at Tantra Loka, about the puryaṣṭaka, Abhinavagupta talks about the cowrings. I mean, it's like the veil of Maya. So he talks about these all are the coverings. So they are covering the Abhimana Devata. So Abhimana Devata is the Ahanda. So here, when it comes to Lalitā Sahasranāma, as you beautifully put it, Bhandasura is actually the representation of that Abhimana Devata. Then he becomes, he or she or whatever, gender neutral, he becomes the Durabhimana Devata. Like that. So that all the coverings, and when you are stated in the I consciousness, the Purnahanda, the greater I consciousness, the Chakreshwara Siddhi, which actually, when you go through the Shiva Sutra, we can see how the Mandra Siddhi is obtained, like as you rightly put as the Parapramadra Shakti of Ganesha, Parapramadra state of Ganesha. So the Shastra and Astra, if you read Lalitā Sahasranāma like that, but with an eye, with from the point of view of a Shaivite, I mean the Kashmiri Shaivite, we will understand what is it actually talking about. So it was quite an illuminating talk. And regarding puryaṣṭaka, we can see in Tantra Loka there is a lot of description on puryaṣṭaka, especially in the chapter 8 of Tantra Loka. I wish if everyone can, I mean, I think Tantra Loka is available online now. So we can, or we can buy the text. I think Markji's book is out. I think it's only available in America. But other texts are also, other versions are also available. So you can actually look into that regarding puryaṣṭaka. We can see what are this puryaṣṭaka, what is it which constitutes the subtle body. So karya, karana, sadhya, sadhana, jnana, sukha, dukkha, all these things. So apart from the minimal understanding of five senses, not senses, five tanmatras, five subtle elements, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, and Ahangara, Manas, and Buddhi, which makes it 8. While Jaya was talking, he was actually elaborating it into much more. He was actually elaborating the topic a little more. So that if you want to understand the concept of puryaṣṭaka, chapter 8 of Tantra Loka gives a good reference on puryaṣṭaka. And also Dehastha Devata Chakra Stotra, which he was mentioning to. Vaduga and Ganesha, that Ganesha becomes the Pranavayu and Vaduga becomes the Apanavayu, and how these things, these two Vayus are actually combined to get the real Samvid Bodha rising through the Sushumna, Madhya Vikasa. So anyhow, we all got Praharshita. We were so happy to hear you. So if anybody has any questions regarding this topic, you can ask to Jaya. In fact, he worked with us. We co-authored a work on Machandanada. Machandanada, what was it? Machandanada?
Yuganatha.
Yuganada. Machandanada is the Yuganada of Kali. So we were actually, for almost an year, we were discussing on the concept of Machandanada and different Yuganadas. And this is actually going to be a series of papers. So in that, Jaya actually published a paper, Machandanada as the Yuganada of Kali. And other papers are on its queue. So we can expect more papers coming on the topic of Kula and Machandanada. So okay, I forgot to mention that. So, okay. You can raise your hand and you can take the questions. There's an option to raise your hand. If you raise like this, I'll not see. I have seen Rajashree ji, but I cannot see everyone if you raise your hand from there's an option to raise your hand. So I'm just unmuting Rajashree ji, that she can ask the question.
It's not a question, Nitin. I didn't understand what was the dream that Swamiji's dream was. So if you could, because that time the network was not a little fine. So if you could just repeat the dream, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so the dream was that in the practice of Kashmir Shaivism, for those who are familiar with Swamiji's teachings, Swami Lakshmanju's teachings on it, they're familiar that the meditation is primarily based on the Netra Tantra, and it is based on this practice that we focus on the gap between the breath. That in any one of the Dvadashanta points, Dvadashanta would mean any point that's outside 12 finger spaces or within or on top. So Swamiji, in his excitement, got Diksha from his master, and he started practicing placing his awareness on the breath going in and going out, and that was what he was most focused on. Now, while that helps to keep the awareness, right, because he was also having this great thirst to realize, right, in completeness. He was already in a very high state then, but he wanted to realize it in completeness. So he could not wait, and this was not going anywhere. He was just watching it going in, going out, being aware of it. Because of that, he felt that, something's not happening, he's not doing something right. He was very disappointed with it, and that's how he cried himself to sleep. When he slept, he had this vision that as a continuation of his sadhana itself, he felt that he must go and ask his master, what is it that's happening? Why is it that I'm not experiencing myself, the real self? So he goes to the ashram, his guru's ashram. And in his guru's ashram, instead of Swami Mehtab sitting there, who is his guru, Swami Ram, his grandmaster, his Parama Guru, was sitting there. And he tells that, I'm watching my breath, I'm being aware of it, I'm doing this practice very religiously, nothing's happening though. And Swami Ram replies with, you have to watch the sun. This is all he says. And the dream abruptly ends. Now, he takes this message. As soon as he gets up, he makes his way to the Guru's ashram, because unlike us, Swami has the understanding that such things that are profound needs to be checked with the master. You have to understand it from the Guru itself. So he goes to the Guru and he asks Swamiji, what is it that this means? He got this vision from Swami Ram, and Swami Ram says, watch the sun. So he says, Swami Mehtab tells Swami Lakshmanju, see, I was going to tell you all this. I was going to explain in detail what is the parts that you're going to focus on and all of that. But you were in a hurry and you were so enthusiastic to do the sadhana that you did not wait to hear it. But this sadhana will only work. This sadhana will reach a completion only if we watch the sun, the junction point. In case of the breath, it is the junction of the breath. In case of the mantra, it will be the gap in between the mantra. In case we are walking, we can watch the gap between each step. If we are doing anything, we can watch the gap between things. So this is the importance of sun. And Swamiji elaborates this point further when he says that if one goes on doing a sadhana but does not watch the breath, the junction point, then entry into Madhya will not happen, and therefore sadhana will not come to completion. So it is very, very important, because while we can use the breath or the mantra or whatever it might be to stabilize our awareness, come to this, sort of a settling that happens. Once that happens, then we need to start focusing on the gap. That's what the dream was, and that is what it means. I hope that's clear.
Yeah, Deepti ji. You can unmute and ask. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this class, because you answer me this question, this answer you just told me, because I'm doing sadhana and the mantras just finishing off the number, so that give me as like Ganesha gave me the answer, like you shouldn't do that, like do it, watch your breath. So thank you so much for that. So last week also I got the message from him, like something like this, but this clear me a lot. Thank you so much.
Namaskar, everybody. Jayadev ji, just it's not a question, but it is a request. In this group, I'm very sure many of them have attended quite a few classes, but there are also people. At least I am one very ignorant person who has not had the privilege of attending many classes. So, if you're referring to texts like Lalitā Sahasranāma, I have not had the privilege of attending classes. So whenever, if there's a reference, if it is possible, if you could just explain the reference, that would be very helpful for us.
Yeah. So firstly, thank you. Secondly, yes, I'll keep that in mind next time. This is a study circle, so I was coming with this notion that there's already the vocabulary that is there. Obviously, we are all ignorant. That's not something that's exclusive to you, but just letting you know that some of us are studying something, some of us are not studying those very things. Third thing is, probably one thing that is most important is these verses, these beautiful verses from the Lalitā Sahasranāma and other texts that I've mentioned. They are starting points for explanations into it. You can go and read Swamiji's explanations. Swami Lakshmanju's books are available on it. Jayadev Singh's publications are available on it. So you read up on it, study it further. But most importantly, probably in one line, if I were to summarize whatever we have discussed, it is Ganesha is the gap, and by focusing on this gap, we enter into it and we become established in it by repeated practice, and that is called Chakreshwarata. That is the state of Atma Sakshatkara. Simple.
Can I add a point with that?
Yes, yeah, please.
Yeah. Regarding when we talk about Shiva, the ultimate consciousness, to reach at Shiva, what is the way to reach? That's a very important question. The marga to Shiva. So when you look at Vijñāna Bhairava Tantra, so this is from, I think he's referring from Netra Tantra, and also when you look at Vijñāna Bhairava Tantra, the first and second dharana of Vijñāna Bhairava Tantra actually talks about the junction. So I think almost all the dharanas is actually talking about that. That's why the text is called the text of centering. So centering is actually keeping right in the middle of two breath. Or Sushumna in one, Madhya Nadi. So Vijñāna Bhairava Tantra talks about Shakti as the Mukha of Shiva. Shaivi Shiva Mukham Ihyuchyate. It is said that Shaivi is the Mukha, is the face of Shiva. So she is the Vaktra, Shiva Vaktra, through which we enter into the Shiva consciousness. So she is the only way and means to enter into the Shivatva. Then the next question comes, who is Ganesha then? So Shaivi is the path to Shiva. Ganesha is actually the path to Shaivi. So Bhairavi is the unwavering attention. So whenever the term Bhairavi is used, it is known as unwavering attention. So how to get into that state of having unwavered attention at something? So we have to rely on Ganesha. So Ganesha is the first one who will lead you to Shaivi, and Shaivi will lead you to Shiva. That is the process. So if you look into the metaphysics of that,
yeah, beautiful.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Actually,
can you say your name? Then
my name is Abhinav. Pranam. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. My question is that I actually live in a hostel. I am very much interested about Gaṇapati and Batuk Bhairav. So what should I do? And can the Sahasranāma of both deities can be done? Thank you.
So regarding the tattva itself, if one needs to study, then this is a starting point. The texts that I've mentioned are a good starting point for all of it. Further, Ramji is having classes and the study circles are going to continue. So I'm sure a lot of more prolific speakers are going to come. They're going to talk about Ganesha, Vatuka Bhairava, etc. So you'll learn a lot from attending these. Regarding Upasana, now I will refrain from answering that because it is something that needs to come from somebody who is established in the Ganesha Tattva, in that particular Upasana. So Ramji, if you want to add to it, it's fine. But I would say this is something that needs to be asked to, say, a guru or an acharya. Ramji, you want to add something?
No, his question is actually particularly, related to the sadhana. It's a personal, very subjective field. So we should not answer it in that way. But as you said, he can actually approach, well-versed master on this. Or before that, he can start chanting the normal mantras of Ganesha, which we have learned from from childhood itself. We learn mantras, some simple mantras, not the bija mantras. Even Gaṇapati Nama is okay. So he can do that as a start, and later when he really gets interested in that, he can actually move into the serious sadhana part. And I think it's not one's decision, it's actually we are chosen for that. That's what. So it's very difficult to answer that question. So the only thing is that we can only tell that he can start doing this even he is in his hostel room. Yeah. Okay. Sangeet ji. I think last question. Yeah.
Okay. My question is, hi, namaste. My question is the Atisūkṣma part. Can you just explain one more, and how it is derived from the Sūkṣma to the Atisūkṣma stage? I'm bit because actually it was quite fast and it's not get properly.
Yeah, I would love to have gone into even more detail regarding that. I know that transition was a little fast. So just simplifying it further, maybe so that we don't take much time right now. In the Sūkṣma stage, as I mentioned, we have to again and again focus, have a subjective awareness of that samvit, and we have to again and again dip into it. Again and again we have to remain in it. We'll be pulled out, we'll be all, the objective experience will always keep drawing us out. The puryaṣṭaka will keep making us identified with it, but the upasana itself is to get established in that center, madhya. So the more and more we get established in that madhya by repeatedly dipping ourselves in it, there comes a point where, by Guru's grace, we don't get pulled out again. We become established there. Established as in, no matter what happens, no matter what kind of thing, what kind of objective or cognitive experience is there, we do not get identified with a limited structure. We become identified with that, as Ramji was saying, a purnahanta. It is a purnata that is there. Everything is experienced as aham. Then, in that state, the tantric literature calls that state as chakreshwarata. Why does it call it chakreshwarata? Because think of it like this. The wheel has multiple spokes. So if the wheel is interpreted to be the senses, so the senses are functioning, the world is moving, the various shaktis are coming and going. If the wheel and the spokes are taken to be various interpretations of this, who is at the center of this wheel? Who is holding together the wheel? It is the person who is experiencing it, the parapramata, right? So it is this subject, the supreme subject, which we get established in terms of upasana, in terms of madhya. We get established in the center, and it is this center that we then experience to be the center of all the spokes of the wheel. This is particularly, I mean, in terms of upasana, we have to begin from the beginning. This is referring to the end of that upasana. In simple terms, we tell of Jivan Mukti, and from the tantric point of view, we mention Jivan Mukti is we experience the state where Vishwatmika, Vishwotirna. We experience ourselves as both transcendental to the universe as well as somebody, as well as we have become the universe, right? Aham, idam, idam, aham, all of those various states that we talk of. All of this is experienced only in that Purnahanta, that state where one is established in the Madhya. That is what is meant by Chakreshwara. Chakreshwara is a whole huge topic which will probably take an hour or so to discuss. When I was learning from my acharyas, Spandakarika talks about the Chakreshwara in the first verse. It took 3 days or 4 days to finish that verse and finish talking about Chakreshwara. So that's a very huge topic. I would recommend that you can take up the Spandakarika, especially Spanda Sandoha, which is a commentary on the first verse of the Spandakarika, in which the meaning of Chakreshwara is mentioned in detail, and it'll be easily understood.
Shall we conclude?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jaya. There's no need of thank you, and it's not kind of but as part of this formalities, I'm doing that just for the sake of formality. Jaya is always being with us. He's associated with Abhinavagupta Institute of Advanced Studies. Thank you everyone for joining this wonderful session. And as I said in the beginning, we are planning to continue this series. This will be a kind of seva to the great lineage of masters and the tradition itself. So we actually thematically we plan to start it with Ganesha. So after Ganesha, then next will be Vaduga or Skanda in one way. So next will be the Ganesatattvarahasyam. So we are thinking of Staneshwarji to have that, lecture, Staneshwar Timalsinaji. So we are trying to get him. Let's see if it works. Staneshwarji will be taking class on Skanda Tattvarahasya. We didn't initiate an official communication regarding this, but hopefully he'll be doing that. Otherwise, also we'll be doing the Skanda Tattvarahasya as the next session. I think within 2 weeks, I think once in 2 weeks, we can actually have this discussion and keep the spirit of the tradition alive. And through the Hidden Lotus Circle group, you can share the Hidden Lotus Circle groups. I think there's a WhatsApp group or something. Yeah, there's a WhatsApp group. So you can share the WhatsApp group and people can join and they'll get to know. And if you want to get any updates on this, you can follow the Facebook page of Abhinavagupta Institute of Advanced Studies. I think Abhi will share. Abhi, can you please share that in the chat? So you can follow that, and there is a YouTube channel also. All these things. This class was actually live streamed in the YouTube channel of Abhinavagupta Institute of Advanced Studies. You can also listen it there. The entire session was live streamed. I think we had a limitation of 100. It was limited to 100 people. That's why the limit was actually not crossing 100. That's why I was asking Abhi why it's not crossing 100. So there is a Zoom limitation. Next time, I think we'll take a much more. I think we have another Zoom also, which will accommodate more people. This time we couldn't do that. But anyhow, the whole valuable, whatever the informations he shared and what the valuable informations are there in YouTube. You can see that later and listen to that. Okay, everyone. So, Namah Shivaya, Shubharatri. Thank you, Jaya. Thank you. Yeah, Abhi didn't share. Abhi is now sharing. Yeah. Yeah. You can click in the chat box, you can see the Facebook page link. You can click there and follow the page. for updates. Thank you.